Okay, hi, it's raining, and I have a rainy day task for us. We're going to be putting together some planter arrangements. All of this is looking a little bit like a random plant clearance sale. These ones here were just thrown in this planter when we moved house. This one is meant to be an intentional planter arrangement, but it just needs a refresh, I think. But what I'm going to do is like pull it all apart and put a select and curated amount of plants into a nice, what do you call it, planter bowl. I have a planter bowl. I've had a few of you ask me to do a video on how I do planter arrangements. So I thought, while it's raining, we can just do one together. I'm just gonna rip it out. Where's my spade? Okay, so I've got two bowls that I got from Facebook Marketplace. Surprise, surprise, I get everything from Facebook Marketplace because pots are expensive. At least the ones I like anyway. Actually, that's not true. I do like terracotta pots. They're useful for like displaying the collection, but I think I'm moving away from terracotta for the bigger planters. I don't know, that's just not the vibe that I'm getting for this house. So today I've got two planters that I'm gonna try and do, and I'm gonna try and pull from this selection of plants. I'll probably like pick bits and pieces from other parts of the garden, but these were the plants that I was mostly eyeing as like, oh, that would look good in a much more intentional, curated arrangement. Aloe Blue Elf. So I'm just gonna put this one on the ground for now. This one's really nice. It's an Agave Podatorium. There's some Mammillarias here that I would love to use. Little spots of Crassula. Maybe some Portulaca. I don't know if this kind of fits in the arrangement anyway. Anyway, we'll see. Hi. So this is the planter that I got from Marketplace. I actually asked if I could buy this empty without the plant in it, and the woman was like kind of offended. She was like, no, absolutely not. Apparently this is a very expensive plant and I should want it, but I don't know what it is, and she couldn't tell me what it was either. When I tried to do a Google ID on it, it gave me like 3 different plants. So I don't know, I'm just gonna put it in a pot in case it is like an expensive plant and then deal with it later. Let's see if we can put it in this grow pot for now. Oof, wow, it's pretty root bound in this pot. Yeah. Look at the bottom of this. Oh God. If anyone does know what this plant is, just feel free to tell me. I kept getting things like asparagus fern, but I don't think it is. Wow, I love how this is just more work for me. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to soak this if I don't want to rip apart the root ball. This is gonna have to be a later problem. I'm sorry. Okay, that can go away. There we go. It's a good pot, huh? Soil first. What I use in my cactus and succulent potting mix is just regular potting mix, and then I add zeolite and pumice. When I first started, I did just buy the normal cactus and succulent mix, but the additive that they put in there, I think it's just like rocks and bark. Bark isn't necessarily that bad for cactus. I have a Cordex plant sitting in my indoor potting mix. It's an aeroid mix and it's like the happiest I've ever seen it. Tim and I stumbled across a nursery online that plant their cactus and succulents in more of an aeroid type mix than your regular cactus and succulent kind of potting mix. And I am kind of wanting to experiment with something like that. I don't think it would necessarily be bad for them. So the zeolite just adds minerals that are going to be good for the cactus, and the pumice adds aeration whilst also adding moisture retention. It kind of keeps the roots hydrated without them being waterlogged. Some people find it too hydrating. I think it works perfectly fine in my climate. So in this big and beautiful succulent and cactus planter, I want to put an agave, the Agave Podatorium. Cool, so these are the roots on the agave. Secateurs. And it's growing a ton of babies on the bottom as well. I am just gonna cut back on the roots. There's no issue with doing that at all. I mean, I wouldn't advise doing it in the dead of summer. We're kind of heading into autumn, supposedly. I just need to get the garden through this last week, I think. We've got a 36-degree day on Sunday. And then I am like praying that we get cooler temperatures in, because just I'm over how humid it is. I've complained a lot about humidity in the last few videos. It's just not what it used to be like. And I'm craving like a much drier summer. You'll find that with an agave, the roots will take up most of the real estate of the pot. Just pulling this out of the other pot, like I had to rip out the whole pot essentially. And the bottom pot hole cover thing, that came out with it. Ooh, that's cute. It's a little bit cute. And you know what? I'm going to keep the babies attached because they're very young. It does mean that I'll need to pull them out later as they get bigger, but I'm pretty sure that won't be for a while. Probably when it's due for another repot. Let's just try and build the soil up around there so it doesn't fall down. Oh, come on. Is it Fly or Plain Tuesday? What's going on? For the most part, putting together a planter is a really intuitive process, and I'll have a rough idea in my head of a couple of ideas that I think will work. But things, as you know, always change mid-process. I'm a real visual person, so I kind of need to see plants physically put together in combinations in front of me before deciding what works and what doesn't. And also with these arrangements, I do kind of like adhere to the thriller, spiller, filler kind of idea. It's a pretty common concept, but if you're not familiar with it, the thriller is kind of like the main showpiece of the planter arrangement. It's the thing that you want to show off, and in this case, I would say that it's the agave. The filler is a thing that kind of like fills out the rest of the pot and is sort of like the supporting act for the thriller. And the spiller, it's another additional texture, I can't talk today. And the spiller is another additional texture. I'm just going to pause for a moment so I can get my thoughts. The spiller is an additional plant that is really great to have in the pot because it'll pull the movement in a different direction. So if your thriller kind of like goes up and the focus is in the pot, the spiller will kind of like move the eye in a downward direction. Am I even making sense? Hang on, my laundry, just one moment. Does that make sense? A spiller might not always be necessary, and I don't think I'm going to have one in this particular pot. Because this is such a really squatty pot, I'm choosing plants that are not going to kind of tower too tall. I'm going to keep it kind of like squatty. The two other things that I go for apart from thriller, spiller, filler are contrast and balance. So contrast for me is really important because if you place plants together that are too similar, they start to blend into one another and they lose their individual impact a little bit. A lot. I was just going to show you an example. This is an Echeveria Tomorrowland. Just forget how terrible this looks at the moment. It's been in this pot since the old place and I just haven't put it in an arrangement yet. Get this flower off. You're done. Can you see if I put these two together, even though they're completely different plants, the shape is quite similar. The color is also quite similar. You can't really showcase the beauty of each of these plants. And because we're kind of like talking succulents here, each plant is a showpiece a little bit. What I would really like to do, I'll just see if I can pull the plant out. I'm hoping this will work. Oh, that's much better. That is so much better. And you know what? This mammillaria is going to have pink flowers in the summer. So this mammillaria is a completely different texture, it's a different shape, and you can sit them side by side and see each plant for what it is. I think I'm only going to have 3 plants in this pot. Sometimes you can just completely stuff the planter and that's great, but I think just for this pot, I think it's going to be more of a curated specimen collection. So in a much larger garden, I don't think this approach would work. I think too many different things, too many contrasting things would create a really messy look. And I think that was the trap that I was falling into with my previous garden. It was just kind of like one type of plant here, one type of plant there, and there was no sense of the bigger picture. But I think with planter arrangements, it works beautifully because you're working out of a much smaller space with fewer plants. So obviously you can see that this mammillaria is much smaller than this agave, and that kind of brings me to my next point, which is balance. Oh, sorry, that mammillaria's just gotten covered in dirt. Brilliant, that can wash off, no problem. When it comes to balancing the weight of plants side by side, the shape and the size can vary, but the mass of the plant kind of needs to feel equal. So you want to kind of think of this as like, you know, you're balancing scales or balancing a seesaw. You don't want the seesaw to tip too far in one direction. Hello, different outfit, different day, but I wanted to explain this idea of balance and weight with a much more obvious example. So here we have a Pherocactus hystrix, which is quite big, it's weighty, it takes up a lot of space. And then we have this, I think it's a grey ghost, a Stenoceras grey ghost. It's taller than the hystrix, but it's still quite thin. And originally I only had these two cacti sitting side by side. So I wanted these two side by side because of the contrasting size and shapes. But if we use the seesaw idea, the grey ghost kind of doesn't match the weight, the mass of this hystrix. So, ow, oh. So I did bring in this Passacana, and that just kind of anchors down the grey ghost a little bit. So these three look a little bit more like a complete collection. And arguably this grey ghost is still a little bit too narrow. It's still a little bit too thin, even when you do have the Passacana in front of it. This side here still isn't quite equaling the mass of the hystrix, but you know, sometimes you can't change the shape of your cactus. You just got to wait for it to grow. Actually, let's try something. This might actually work a little bit better. Let me just see. I mean, the thing that I can see that you can't see here is that this has a baby. This has a pup right here, like that. This other one here, what is this? I've forgotten the name. Anyway, I can't deliberate on this right now because I have to finish off the arrangements, but you can let me know what you think. A lot of this is intuitive, so you're probably already making a lot of these kinds of choices without realizing it. I know I was. But for me, studying garden design has helped me to understand why certain choices work better for me than others. This is terrible. Let's see if I can just get that dirt off. It'll wash off, it's fine. I probably just need one more plant to sort of anchor the mammillaria so that the weight doesn't feel like it's shifting all the way over to the agave. I mean, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. Let's see what I have. I could do something like this. I could add something similar to the mammillaria. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm going to shift you a little bit further down. Hang on. All right, can you see that a little bit better? So I could do it like this. You could have 1, 2, 3 pieces being showcased like that. And see, that just balances out the planter a little bit more so things aren't too heavy on the agave. I'm wondering if there's another cactus I can bring in. Hang on. I might also be able to do something like this and just have like bigger mammillaria, smaller mammillaria. I don't think these two are the same types of mammy, but you could do something like that as well. Actually, I quite like that better than the other one. Yeah, look at that. There is another way that you can go. You could also balance it out with something that is completely contrasting, although I think, I don't know. There's something like that you could do that adds contrast. That's actually quite nice. That adds a different color. Oh, mammy agave. See, now I'm just going to be doing this for the next 40 minutes. I kind of love the contrast of this, and I think it just adds a different texture and a different color. So I'm going to do it. I am going to do it. And I think I'm going to practice restraint. What does Laura Eubanks say? Restraint, rocks restraint, repetition. So this isn't kind of like including any succulents or anything like that. If I did wanna, and we'll just have to see how this plant goes, I could balance this part out with, all right, this here is Crassula baby's necklace. And if I wanted to put this back in, I may need to reset these as cuttings. Ugh. Oh, that could work. I'm like, this one will have no softer succulents in it, but this could work. And there would still be enough negative space around the planter to give the eye somewhere to rest. I'm gonna cut these back and pop them in as cuttings. Probably not good to do ahead of a 36-degree day, but I'm hoping that'll be the last one. All right, so let's get the rest of this potted up first. You know what? Let me just see if I can turn this around, because I think the front of the cactus, yeah, that's a little bit better. And that can nestle in nicely there. Oops! Oh my God, I nearly fell. Now, so that you can see what I'm going to do with the crassula. So see this here? What I'm going to do is just chop it off so I have a little bit of stem. Just take off all of these dry bits and then stick that in the soil. Something like that. Pulling off these air roots. Cut this off. Tidy this up. Chop. Right, I am sure that that will grow in perfectly in no time. Now, top dressing, I hear you say. Ooh, or we can do the decomposed granite. Is there a way of doing both? Maybe. So maybe the red scoria can kind of like be closer to the plant. We can ribbon that around the plants and then have the, what do you call it? The decomposed granite outside of that. Oh, can you see this? Whoops. No, this is getting heavier now. I'm just ringing gold around it, just for something a little bit different. Oh, this is decomposed granite, by the way. Decomposed granite gold. I think this needs more red around here. Yeah, that's better. That's way better. Ah, look at that. And that. And that. Wait, you know what? I just realized that maybe we can just do with a little touch of the decomposed granite gold, like right here. Just a little touch. Oh, yeah. For some reason, I feel that looks better against the crassula. I don't know why. Okay, I promise you I will not touch it. I'm not going to touch it anymore. But I think that looks good. All right, what to do with this one right here? Here's what I was thinking. Oof. Oh, wow. Okay, so we've got a few rotten leaves. Again, I'm going to chop off the roots at the bottom. That can kind of sit here-ish. Look at that blue color against the pot. So good. Okay, contrast, balance, contrast, balance. All right, so there's this that we can put. That's pretty. Or there's this. Oh, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. Feel like this should be kind of nestled in there just a little bit more. I'm feeling a rock right here. Can this be put in here? Yeah, that looks good. Oops, something like that. Oh, yeah, that's better. Look. So that feels a bit more balanced. I feel like this rock is anchoring the cactus a little bit more. I was thinking crassula around here and they could be spillers eventually. Again, I'm just sourcing stuff from all around the garden. This is, what is this? It's a crassula moonglow. Oh my God, this has been neglected as well. What if this went in here? Oh yeah. You guys definitely needs to be cleaned up. Oh, stop. You could get away with not putting the crassula in there, but I don't know, I just kind of like it. Maybe that. I think that's pretty cute. Here is an extremely leggy crassula perforata, something like that. I just grabbed another piece of the crassula. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay, one more. I just need one more. Maybe two more stems. That's it. All right, so what are we thinking for top dressing? Don't know if I want to go the gold. I think it might be too strong for this color palette. Maybe the natural, maybe. Like, oh, the gold could be okay. It'd definitely bring it out a little bit more. All right, hang on. Okay, so that's the natural granite. It might complement the sandstone a little more. Let's give it a go anyway. It is indeed a few days later and we're going to finish off these planters. We're going to top dress this one. I'm going to use this natural decomposed granite. I actually had to hose it down because decomposed granite has like dust all over it and I was waiting for it to dry. So, you know, apparently that takes a few days now. And with this planter over here, I just felt like there was something missing. So we're going to put a few accent rocks around the place. Not too many. Just a few. I was kind of taking inspiration from whatever I was doing over here. Oh, maybe I'll just shove this to the side and let this take center stage first. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Don't know if you can see that, but I'll try and get a shot of it afterwards. Oops. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. I actually quite like how natural this decomposed granite looks, and I think this turned out looking great. Right, now for this one here. Where are my tools? I seriously just put, there they are. Firstly, don't know if you can see this, but we just need to get rid of this stuff here. Ugh. All right, so I have these 3 rocks and I think I'm just gonna place them maybe, oh, like that. Oh, yeah, that's a little bit better. Or just, no. Maybe this. Yes. Yeah, better. You can just see. Something like that. Maybe this needs to be buried in a little bit more. Yes. Yeah. And the crassula can kind of like fill out this way eventually. Yeah. Voila. Or should this go here? No. Don't be silly. Because this is such a low squatty pot, you're going to be mostly viewing it from above, so I'll show you what that looks like. And we're done. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. How do you think they turned out? What would you do differently? I hope that was helpful while also being a bit fun. I will see you in the next video.